Coming to you from USL headquarters, this is Steele Some Time. Here's the USL's Kelsey Steele.
It is June 11th, 2019. Episode 4 of Steele Some Time is here. I'm your host, Kelsey Steele, joined alongside Scott Stewart, or Stu, as we like to call him. Scott, how are we doing this morning?
Tired eyes, but full hearts.
Can't lose.
Can't lose. And I don't know if that fully fits the catchphrase, but I know come debate time, I feel pretty darn good about not losing what would only be, well, it'd be my third L and one of many from the weekend. So trying to reverse the trend here a little bit.
We've taken a few L's. It was a rough go for Scott and I getting back into glorious Tampa Bay this morning. I suffered a nearly 15-hour delay, courtesy of the one and only Allegiant Airlines, which I probably set myself up there for that issue. Scott, I know you had a treacherous trek getting into Tampa as well.
That's
all I've got to say.
One potential sponsor down, by the way.
All I've got to say is, Delta, I trusted you with my heart and my mind and my soul, and I just feel betrayed.
They're supposed to be one of the good ones.
They were one of the good ones. My way up was fantastic. My way back, I don't want to get into it. I will say, shout out to the agent who tweeted at me 15 hours later to figure out what the issue was. Listen, I'm over it. I just kind of want to get moving on this week, start picking up some dubs instead of some L's.
And tell you what, weekend's over. In the past, we've got a lot to look forward to this week, including the women are finally playing. Today's episode, we've got the airplane mishap out of the way, so it's just upward from here. We're going to talk about the latest in the East and the West, and Josh Suggs from New Mexico United actually is going to come in and join us, talk about Father's Day up and coming this Sunday. So that's going to be a really great interview. Josh is super great. We'll hit our moment of the week and then look ahead. We got a lot of Open Cup play this week too. So, and then we'll round up, of course, with Scott's favorite edition of Shots Fired. So
I think it's a good one this week. I'm teasing a little bit to stick around to the end, but I'm just saying my argument is strong.
I also feel very prepared this week. So we're keeping with that Father's Day theme. So stick around for Shots Fired. It is going to be a very good one this week. Let's hop into the West. Out of Week 14, the West was interesting this week. I want to start over in San Antonio and talk about this academy impact that's going on right now. So they get their first victory, and it's a big one for San Antonio. I mean, I think that it's going without said that San Antonio needed a big win. They needed something to kind of get them onto their feet. And it's like, I feel like San Antonio has just been trying so hard to get that rhythm going. You know, they've had a few wins this year, not one that's been extraordinary and not one that's been put together in a string, you know? And I think that San Antonio is one of those clubs that really could be a force to be reckoned with in the West. So they have such a good reputation year in and year out. And this year alone, I think they're really kind of struggling to get on their feet. And so they come in and get this win on Saturday in an unlikely way, I think we could say.
Yeah, I think it's more just the setup. Going into the season, I think San Antonio was very, very confident that maybe they didn't see themselves as front runners in the West necessarily, but they knew they were going to be competitive. They had built an impressive roster, and then kind of like you said, definitely did not start the way that they wanted to, and on the road they've struggled the entire year. And even when they've won at home, it's been like, okay, is this the win that's going to move them forward? Is this the win that's going to move them forward? But I think truly, finally, San Antonio, please prove us both right here. I think this is the one.
Yeah.
To come back down 2-1 against Reno, you've got your two 17-year-olds, one of them your academy signings, scoring 2 goals within 90 seconds just after the hour mark. I mean, A, it's a remarkable story, but B, what a confidence boost for that side to be able to sort of know that, hey, our backs are completely up against the wall. Like, we've thought we've been put in a corner before, but nobody puts these babies in a corner. And 2 goals in 89.
Well done, Scott Stewart.
I know. 2 goals in 89 seconds, like I said, just after the hour mark. San Antonio able to hold on, a very important win for them, and now it's truly about, okay, we got it done, guys. we can cross this one off the list, but how can we move forward? How can we maintain this momentum?
And that's Ethan Bryant, Jose Gallegos, of course, that you're speaking of, two phenoms really in the academy system. And we've seen a little bit of Bryant last year. He's suffered injuries a little bit this season, so it's kind of been hard for him to get that ball rolling. But Bryant should have had a goal in the 55th.
Yeah.
He had a beautiful strike right inside of the 18. I mean, I felt for him rob the post. So for him to get that other one just a few minutes later, I'm like, okay, this is storyline. And then for Gallegos, if you have not watched that goal, you need to go back into the highlights and watch that, because this is a 17-year-old kid who created that entire play. He made that run. He demanded to get the ball back. Barmby hit him up, and he, made that one touch around the defender, finished it off, and it was gorgeous. A 17-year-old looking like a 25-year-old.
Mm-hmm. And put the team on his back.
Put the team on his back. I was so impressed, and it got me kind of thinking, are there other moments in the USL in the past where there's just been a moment that had that snap, that turn where you knew that whatever happened previous to that is in the past, and this is a new team moving forward. Just that turning point. And as I was thinking about that over the weekend, one team that really came to mind for me was Louisville in 2018. Obviously, they had their different narratives, and probably better than anybody, with their coaching changes and dealing with the player coaching system as well. And they had a 3-0 win over Penn FC beginning of September. And after that, they didn't lose again. They didn't draw again. They won every single game, including the USL Cup final.
Yeah.
So for me, that's a big one that sticks out in my mind, where it's just like they turned a switch and it was, full on from there.
Well, and that I fully agree, A, and B, I think that's sort of what we're encouraging San Antonio to take on, is just kind of say, I mean, listen, no one's going to sit here and say you're going to go unbeaten all the way through week 34 or week 36 or all the way until the end of the season, but can this be the turning point for you guys? Can you sort of say, okay, we've been pushed nearly to our limit throughout the entire year. We've got these kids coming in. My favorite moment from Saturday night outside of the goals was San Antonio's "I'm not crying, you're crying" tweet when they posted the photo of the kids side by side. It's an incredible moment. And I think that obviously when you look at Darren Powell's side, you expected so much more to this point. They weren't there, but now we're hopefully starting to see them just raise their level slowly and slowly and slowly. And is this the turning point? Obviously, the future will tell us that, but right now, this looked to be sort of their marquee moment of 2019 so far.
And Ethan Bryant and Jose Gallegos, they weren't the only two youngsters to have a weekend as well. Cade Cowell for Reno 1868 FC had a heck of a weekend as well. And he actually comes in at 15 years, 7 months, I think it's 25 days, as the youngest scorer ever in the history of championship play. And his story is really cool. So he's already committed to Gonzaga, but that morning, he actually drove to take the ACT. and then drove 2 hours to the Colorado Springs match, and then eventually does get in the game as well and scores. And it's a big moment for him. But I love those storylines too. We've seen a few of them, especially with San Antonio and them having their academy players come up, but. You have to remember that some of these kids are young. And
no driver's license.
They're driver's license. And I was reading an article about Cade, and he was saying, I need to get my score up. So, push comes to shove, I'll take the 4-hour test and then get to the match later in the day.
Absolutely.
I love that commitment. And speaking of commitment, how about Phoenix's commitment to Dollar Beer Night?
Undefeated.
If you thought that we were going to go through the show today without mentioning Dollar Beer Night, you are severely mistaken.
Absolutely, and for good reason. I mean, holy cow, not only is Dollar Beer Night absolutely a thing, but the goals on goals, and Adam John, I will stand by this opinion. I will die on this hill. That should have been SportsCenter #1 out of the weekend. 60-yard ball over the top. Not even a touch. He just lofts it over the goalkeeper. I saw that and watched SportsCenter, and I was like, where is it? Okay, it's not number 3, it's not number 2, it's not number 1. I was about to just start tweet storming at SportsCenter on Twitter and just let them know, y'all got that wrong, man. That was, an incredible team performance, but a couple of really individual moments of brilliance in Phoenix. Holding true to Dollar Beer Night.
Yeah, I think that's a real missed opportunity on ESPN's part.
Oh,
so if you're listening, ESPN, you got to be better.
You got to be better.
You got to be better. I will say, ESPN aside, maybe we don't need them. I don't know. As of yesterday, had over 3 million views on that goal alone between different platforms with 433 and all
some clever
all
captions too.
That is probably one of my favorite parts of how, because each goal, when it's going into different platforms and different handles and things like that, it gets harder and harder to get creative because more and more people are taking the easy liners from you. So hats off to 433 and company.
I think theirs was something like, can you get a better long range passing rating than 99? And I was like, yeah, I like that. As a FIFA connoisseur myself, I'm very much into that.
Yeah, so Phoenix Rising streak continues for them. But elsewhere in USL Championship play, we had a few streaks end this weekend. Talking about over New Mexico and, unfortunately, Tampa Bay Rowdies. Their notable streak comes to an end. And for me, I wonder, is that more of a kudos to North Carolina FC and what we have seen from them in recent weeks? Or is that one of those days where Rowdies outshot North Carolina 17-4.
Yeah.
And you need to keep those numbers in perspective. So is it just one of those days where you go out and you can't capitalize?
So I was watching this game with my parents, and my mom is a big Ben Spies fan.
Okay.
And so she was obviously pretty happy. Listen, I'm very neutral when it comes to this stuff. I just like to see good games, and I thought that was one of them. I think if I'm the Rowdies, I have to see this at least as somewhat of a win. So follow me a little bit here.
Okay.
You go all the way through into week 14, unbeaten, an incredible start. You've lost, okay? You accept that, you build on that, and it's like you can sort of put history in the back of your mind now and say, we can still achieve something incredible regardless of whether we go on a 26-game unbeaten streak to start the year. It's just one of those things where I feel like if the loss is going to come, let it come now. Let it come to a good team like North Carolina. You probably did not want to have it happen at home because that's your fortress. That's the place where no team wants to come in and have to face you. And I think North Carolina would even say that was probably the most difficult game of their year so far, and yet they still won 3-1. I just feel like the scoreline's a little lopsided, but if I'm Neil Collins, I'm saying, guys, we were likely going to lose at some point this season. If it's going to happen, let's have it happen now. What's next?
I think that's a really great point, too, to have a loss like that to a North Carolina FC team that looked great.
It wasn't the Rowdies' night.
It wasn't the Rowdies' night. Dre Fortune had a brace. Nazmi is making an impact, making plays right away. I mean, you can tell that him being on the field and being with this unit is an immediate impact.
Yeah. And
I think North Carolina is going to stir up a little bit of trouble the rest of the season. And if I'm the rest of the Eastern Conference, I'm looking at their showing, whatever, the shot numbers may be, they had 3 points out of that.
Exactly.
On the road.
I think that, moving on from the Rowdies, what Dave Sargent has done in North Carolina already is impressive. But now what I'm looking for out of them is consistency. If you're going to go to Tampa Bay and beat them, and you're going to go to New York and beat a very tough Red Bulls 2 side at home, who is already another one of those impeccable, and obviously you get the home win over Louisville. You've got some of these notable results. You also have some ones there you just kind of look at and you're like, did I read that right, or the scorelines flip? So can we get a little bit of solidification from North Carolina top to back? And I think it's a reasonable ask. I think now they can look at this Rowdies performance and say, listen, they might have outshot us 17-4, but that's the performance that we can put in every week. And if we play like that, we're going to win 9 times out of 10. North Carolina, I think, is one of the dark horses in the East when maybe they shouldn't be a dark horse, but it's kind of one of those where your eyeballs aren't on them every week. That's fine.
They'll be there in
That's
November.
fine. We'll be there. Yeah.
I love that. You talk about consistency and how much we need to see that out of North Carolina FC. One team that has been consistent this entire season is Mexico.
Yeah.
And so for them to come in, they take their first loss of the regular season this week. Again, one of those questions that, as I was watching that game, I wonder if that is more of a take from Sacramento and less of a New Mexico take. I think that this win is exactly what Sacramento needed. And we talked a little bit earlier about a turning point in a season with San Antonio. Is this something that Sacramento needed, where they're finally able to make that switch? Because here's the thing. Sacramento is one of those teams that year in and year out, they are in that conversation in the West. And don't get me wrong for a second, they have the tools there to be at the top of the Western Conference. So I just wonder, is this team finally becoming what we had anticipated in the West?
So I see both sides, obviously. New Mexico, I think, might maybe a little bit of a hangover from the midweek, right?
That's fair.
It's a very quick turnaround. They have played, I think, once you include Open Cup, more games than any other team at this point, at least in the Western Conference. Sacramento goes there. They are sort of in a similar vein as North Carolina, not quite the same, where they've had some very interesting losses. And now they've gone back-to-back wins. And obviously to go to New Mexico in front of that crowd and that environment and absolutely slap them around 3-0, I mean, that's a confidence boost that you can't get from anywhere else but an on-field performance like that. So for New Mexico, again, I think it's one of those things where it's like, wow, we got our behinds handed to us a little bit, and now it's time to move forward. But for Sacramento, you're like, holy cow, look at what we just did. Right. Where can we go from here?
Yeah, I love that take, and I think that rolls right into our guest this week with Josh Suggs. So it's Father's Day this weekend, and Scott, we really do have some amazing dads throughout the championship.
Yep.
And I think one of the things that people more than often forget is trying to balance being a professional athlete and being a father and a husband, and it's no easy feat. So this week we thought we'd sit down with one of the dads in the league, and Josh Suggs, a veteran guy in this league, and as a professional and truly one of the most genuine people you will meet in this league. So, you know, Josh has played professional soccer for nearly 10 years now, most recently with Colorado Springs, but he's back home in New Mexico to lead this team as their captain. So coming up after the break, we're going to sit down, talk with Josh a little bit, and get some insight into Father's Day in New Mexico. So we'll be right back.
Hey guys, this is Mark Anthony Dan. You're listening to Steele Some Time.
All right, we are now joined in by New Mexico's own Josh Suggs. So, Josh, thanks so much, first and foremost, for joining us today to talk a little bit about Father's Day.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Father's Day is coming up. I guess I'm excited to represent fathers in the USL. I'm not really sure, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's fun being a dad, and it's fun having my son see kind of what it's like and what life is like being a professional athlete, like kind of from the inside. So,
and that's awesome. And Sage, your son, he's turning 4 next month as well, right?
Yeah, that's right. He likes to tell everyone that he meets that his birthday's on July 7th. So
that's so cute. But before Sage was around, I'd love to kind of backpedal a little bit here and get into finding out that you're becoming a father, and you know what that preparation and that transition was like for you. So where were you at that point in time when you found out that you guys were going to be having a son?
So it was in 2014, and I was playing in Orange County at the time. And Sage was a bit of a surprise for us. And so my wife, when she found out, you know, she had this plan of us, like, you know, being married for a while and going and exploring and doing adventures and all these different things. So when she found out, she was a bit, not sad, but just we took a different direction. So when I found out, I was overjoyed, and I was crying with just joy. I was so excited, and it took my wife a couple of days to come around to the fact that we were both going to be parents, and she actually the way she started coming around was she had a dream about Sage, and she dreamt about this little green-eyed, blonde-haired boy just kind of running around, and after that she felt just completely okay with it, which is kind of cool.
Wow, talk about a sign. That is unreal. So was Sage born there in Orange County?
Yeah, he actually was born in Newport Beach, California, which is pretty funny because, you know, I'm from Las Cruces, New Mexico. I never thought I'd have a have a kid out there.
Right,
But,
right.
He was born in Newport Beach.
So what was that like? Because you've been a few different cities since Orange County as well. So what is it like for you as a professional athlete and a father and a husband to travel with a newborn?
At the beginning it was pretty tough. So we had Sage in 2015. I was playing in Orange County at the time in July, obviously, and from there we moved. And I decided to sign with Colorado Springs. Really, it was tough moving so many times, even going from Colorado Springs to here. But I knew that even though it would be tough kind of moving and moving our life in a different direction, it's always been a choice for me about raising him in a place where I think is kind of fitting for molding him into the man I want to be. So at first, when he was born in Orange County, I wanted to raise him in the mountains, and that's kind of the childhood that I had. So the first opportunity I got with Colorado Springs, I decided to move out there, and which at the time, that was the best decision I ever made. And we were just really happy there. And for 3 years I played there. To be honest, I never thought I was going to leave. But when this opportunity came up with New Mexico and they announced the team, I knew that I had to bring my family to New Mexico because I wanted Sage to have a similar upbringing to what I experienced.
So how important did you feel that it was with Sage's upbringing that he grows up in New Mexico the same way that you did?
When I was a kid, I had a lot of opportunities to just kind of grow up understanding more so, I don't know, the wilderness and how things worked out there, and kind of being able to get away from civilization a little bit more. And I thought that was very important, and that was one thing that when I was living in Orange County that we didn't get to experience, because if you're in the Los Angeles area, you're probably not going to get out of that area for, I don't even know, like 5 or 6 hours with traffic, just to get away from people. I thought it was really important that Sage be able to experience kind of life away from people. I thought that was really important to me.
I think that's really cool too, because if anybody stumbles across your Instagram, they're going to see pretty much your entire Instagram's filled with hunting and fishing and being outdoors. And for me, what I thought was really cool was seeing Sage in so many of those pictures. Does he go out with you a lot and on these trips?
Yeah, he's with me on every one of them, and he's my little partner in crime. We do everything together. He's getting to a point now where he can walk all the places that I walk. I used to have to carry him on my back everywhere we went, and he loved it. But now it's pretty cool. He's walking all these places. Every time we go fishing, he carries his own little fishing rod, and even though he doesn't really throw any hooks out there, he's still practicing fishing with kind of like a fake lure, which he loves it. And to see kind of his passion for the outdoors, it's pretty special.
And such a cool thing to share together. And I remember when I was out in New Mexico, one of the things that really just captivated me was after you guys had won the game, Sage comes running out into the field with your jersey on. And it was one of the coolest moments I had ever experienced, soccer aside, to see you two on the field together, just kicking the ball around, father and son. I mean, that's such a special moment, Josh.
Yeah, it actually is really special. And I've always kind of taken Sage with me, even in Colorado Springs. I've taken him with me to sign autographs just so that he can see that and experience that. But it was actually here in New Mexico where Kevon Frater actually grabbed him after a game, and he took him over and he grabbed a soccer ball from our bench and he started playing soccer with him. And I was like, man, that is the coolest thing. Sage is getting to play in front of however many thousands of fans that are here, 13, 14,000 fans. And actually that day, Sage scored a goal, and the curse started going crazy and cheering for him. And Sage, like, you could just see his eyes light up, and he still talks about that to this day. So I just,
yeah, as much as I can, when we win a game and stuff, I want him to experience that.
It seems like there is such a relationship between your teammates and your family. And I know when we were there, when you guys were done playing and everything, and you went over and signed autographs, and he was right there next to you, and then runs into, I think it might have been Kavan's arms and a few of the other guys' arms, like they were just uncles. Just one family.
That's exactly right. Yeah, I mean, we have these guys over for dinner a lot. They're very much a part of our family. But Sage also, he idolizes them. So he, when he comes out to our backyard and he plays soccer, he pretends to be Kavan Frater. He pretends to be Santi Moir. And he plays against me, and I'm always Justin Schmidt. I can never just be Josh Suggs. I have to be somebody else on the team, which is pretty funny. But he definitely, those guys are his heroes, which is cool.
And there's, in our league right now, there's a lot of athletes who are having children now or just announcing pregnancies. And for you, what would be your advice to a lot of our new fathers in the league?
Yeah, I'd say that my best advice is to just enjoy it. We're so lucky that we have so much free time to spend with our families, and it's true, we travel a lot, and that takes away. But at the same time, we're working for 3 hours a day, and then we get the rest of that time with our family, and it's beautiful. And I really, if I've learned one thing in the last 4 years, it's just to enjoy every single moment of it, because I know that it's not going to last forever. So right now, I just try to soak up as much time as I have with Sage and just make the most of it.
Everything aside, you're now playing professionally in the state that you grew up in, and your family is getting to experience that. Sage is getting to see that firsthand. What's your favorite part about being a dad right now?
I love everything about being a dad, but I think with Sage, especially at his age now, every year it gets a little bit more fun with him. So he's able to do more and more. Just being able to experience all of his firsts is pretty amazing. So the first time he, goes fishing, for example, or first time he does this hike, that I did when I was a kid, and that's really special for me. And just to have him be a part of kind of the rejuvenation of New Mexico, which when I was younger, New Mexico was kind of run down. And within the last 5 or 10 years, people are building the state back up, and it's becoming something really special, and there's people that really care and love the state. And so for him to be a part of that and take pride in that, I think is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think it's amazing to watch that from the outside as well. And Josh, thanks so much for stopping by today. And I wish you a very happy Father's Day. I hope you get to enjoy some time with the family this weekend and create some really cool memories to come with Sage and your family. I'm sure that there are plenty more in store. So yeah, to you and the rest of the fathers in our league, happy Father's Day. And thanks so much for stopping in today.
Thank you so much for having me, Kelsey.
Hey soccer fans, this is Jeff Reuter of The Athletic, and you're listening to Steele Some Time.
Welcome back into Steele Some Time, and we're just coming off of that Josh Suggs interview, and I mean, we talked a little bit about it earlier, Scott, but I truly think that Josh is one of the most professional, genuine guys that we have in this league.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I mean, obviously, he's going to tug some heartstrings there with the interview here, and I'm sure that, especially with Father's Day growing up, especially with those who are fathers or are kids and have great sports memories with their dads. I mean, it definitely fits the mold, I'll say that.
And it's definitely one of those things that I think Sage is going to remember forever. And it's going to be so cool for him to look back and have these pictures of him as a 3-year-old on the field with his dad.
Yep.
There's so many moments like that throughout the league. Where
his dad, Kavan Frater, or his dad,
right.
His dad, a version of his dad, definitely.
Whichever one he chooses to be that day. So I'm really glad that Josh stopped in and gave a little bit of insight into that. And, as we transition into our social media moment of the week, a lot of that we see with Sage and Josh. But this week we're going a little bit younger for our social media moment of the week, and you alluded to it a little bit earlier. And it's got to be the picture that San Antonio FC posted on their social media platforms this week. And it is Ethan Bryan and, Jose Gallegos side by side. And it is one of the cutest side by sides I think you'll ever see. And these two two, young phenoms have been playing together for a really, really long time.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great photo. I think even more important to me is you really get like the vintage vibe on that first photo too. You can kind of tell that like this is not just your average this wasn't a photo shoot, right? This is mom out there with some like Kodak. Maybe she took it to CVS afterwards and had the photos processed. It's one of those. But it's awesome to see these two sort of be able to go from that point and work together, obviously work separately to become who they are today, but to still come together and then to have it all really full circle on Saturday night is just like, it's a beautiful thing. I think the caption, again, we go back to sort of the caption contest here, San Antonio couldn't have done it better.
Yeah.
Shout out my man Preston.
It loved to be able to see a little bit of a throwback from our guys out of San Antonio. So super appreciative there. As we move into week 15, there's a few things I think that really catch our eye. I'm going to start first with regular season play before we open up the Open Cup bucket. For me, it's Phoenix and Orange County. Yeah. I think that we're getting another edition of the 2018 Western Conference Final rematch. Orange County came out of that one with a positive result, and now we're looking at only 4 points separating the two of them. And, they won that first meeting at home 2-1. But now you have a Phoenix team that's very different than they were at the beginning of May, end of April. Haven't lost since that meeting in Orange County. And I'm not saying that in terms of, they drew a few games. No, they're 4-game win streak right now, 23 points, just 2 behind New Mexico. Yeah. So I think they're coming into this matchup a very different team than Orange County saw a few weeks ago.
Absolutely. I know Phoenix is flying. OC's quietly on like a 5-game unbeaten streak, but only one of those is a win. I think more for me, and trust me, the on-field product I'm sure will deliver, but there was some bad blood on social media earlier this year. Those two just kind of chirping at each other, letting them both know that, the memories of last October, last November in the Western Conference Finals certainly are not gone for either side. So both teams coming in, sort of riding impressive streaks. I think you would give the nod to Phoenix in terms of their current form, just 4 straight, and they've done it in quite emphatic fashion. But something says that OC is going to go in there and just kind of feel that like little brother underdog type, like we're going to try and punch above our weight a little bit here. And I think it's obviously possible that they could come away with a result that surprises one or two.
And Orange County needs this win more than Phoenix does. They need to produce a result.
Well, and especially with New Mexico losing on Saturday, Phoenix now has 2 games in hand, and they're only 2 points behind New Mexico. If Phoenix didn't come away with a win, it would not be the end of the world by any means. Orange County is sort of looking at a stage of, okay, who are we going to be? Where are we going to be in this season? I'm sure that they would be happy to at least be right on the edge of the playoff spot, but you're starting to get into a little bit of the Western Conference. There's so much parity as is that it's like, if we don't establish ourselves quickly here, we could easily find ourselves 11, 12, 13, and then that becomes harder and harder to climb back as the season goes on. So Orange County's going to have to bring everything this weekend, and hopefully they do, but I'm sure Phoenix has plenty of plans of their own.
Week 15, big matchup to watch there. Elsewhere, throughout the championship, we have 10 championship teams in action on Tuesday and Wednesday for Open Cup play. And elephant in the room, maybe the biggest one has to be Cincinnati and Louisville getting their opportunity to meet for the first time since Cincinnati's move out of championship play. And it's very different this time around.
Yeah, it is. And I think that, given the history between these two sides, I think that alone sets the stage. But you add in Cincinnati's dominant Eastern Conference performance last year, just absolutely destroying the regular season, and Louisville City being your USL Cup winners, I think there's just a lot that is sort of maybe some unfinished business, if you will. And listen, there are some great matchups around the Open Cup as well. I know that Columbus-Pittsburgh's going to be great. Charleston-Atlanta I'm going to be watching. But I think it's safe to say that if you're paying attention to the championship, you've got 2 eyes on Wednesday night.
And listen, we understand these are very 2 different teams.
Absolutely.
Cincinnati's a very different team than we saw last year playing Louisville. But I think that we have to use what we know here and work with the stats that we're given. And Louisville leads the regular season series 4-3-2 against Cincinnati. But Cincinnati won their only previous Open Cup meeting in 2017. But the kicker, Louisville has performed better on the road than at home against Cincinnati. So they're 3-1-1 on the road.
That was a theme for Hack's team at the end of last year.
Yeah.
I mean, when you looked at when he first came in, there were some performances. The 0-0 with Nashville was fine, but they lost to Toronto FC too. I think that's a game that a lot of Louisville fans have completely wiped out of their memory. But for the one who had to tweet about it, it's definitely still in my memory. So, I think that, Louisville's going to come in here with a chip on their shoulder because though Cincinnati is different, Louisville is not. Louisville has 17, 18 guys that will certainly feel that rivalry when they step on that Nippert turf, regardless of who is lining up in the opposing colors. I think for Louisville, it's more of the case of instead of seeing red, they see that orange and blue, and they're like, something just clicks, man, and they just turn on. So I'm obviously very excited, and it's obviously very difficult for me to hide that excitement, but this is one of, I think, the best soccer rivalries in the country. I think these two, again, they just go back blow for blow. Obviously, the proximity has a lot to do with it, but I think also the way that these games have played out, and I think some off-the-field comments on both sides. I will say that there obviously was some social media in play over the last few years as well. So this
Who would have contributed to that?
Yeah, I don't know. I certainly wouldn't name names by any means, but I think that this one carries extra weight than maybe the other ones.
And circumstances are different this time around, too. You have a Louisville side that's fifth in the Eastern Conference right now. At fifth, that being said, not far off from that top spot either, just a few points separate them from the Rowdies. But then you have a Cincinnati team that's 3-11-2 right now, bottom of the Eastern Conference in the MLS. So I think you have two teams kind of coming into this matchup a little differently than they have in previous times. And so my question here, Scott, does Cincinnati need this win more than Louisville does?
I think when you look at it purely from this is a cup game type atmosphere, Cincinnati, I think, though the results have not come, they have clearly made a point that they are building an identity. They are building an identity. They are confident in the squad that they have right now, and now they are trying to make the most out of what is still a very sort of ebb and flow type situation. For Louisville, taking the Louisville out of Scott, Cameron Lancaster isn't wearing number 9 on Wednesday night. Cameron Lancaster led them in April, scored the lone goal. Cameron Lancaster scored again in May. George Davis IV, his deflected effort, like in the 80th minute or something, eventually saw them over the line. But it's like, without Cam, what's your answer? And in the Open Cup, in their first Open Cup contest at Lynn Stadium in Louisville, it was a 90th minute penalty from Sean Tosh. And I saw Niall McCabe's incredible free kick last weekend, but it's just one of those things where it's like, you don't have Cam, who will step up? I'm not saying that they don't have someone capable of stepping up, because trust me, I think if there's anybody who does, this Louisville team is matched up with Cincinnati very, very well. But again, it's more just a case of the man who took you there twice last year and got the job done twice is not there anymore. Whose turn is it?
Definitely an adjustment there. Multiple storylines within this matchup as well. One probably that hasn't been talked about either is the possibility here of having two former Xavier University products taking the field at the same time, separate uniforms, and that's Luke Spencer and Nick Hagelin. So I think that's a cool storyline as well. Those two kind of coming back and duking it out against each other. There's a lot on the line here in terms of the rivalry, in terms of momentum. I think that this is going to be a very, very good game on Wednesday night.
Well, and John Hackworth has only played Cincinnati once, technically 1.5 times if you want to call the September 8 game that got rained out and rescheduled for September 11, which was then even more more difficult in terms of the field conditions. So Hack definitely knows that this rivalry exists. But again, on the other side, Alan Koch, who was the man who duked head-to-head with James O'Connor for so long, is also no longer there in Cincinnati. So it's like you've got two coaches who maybe understand sort of the weight that this game carries, but now have to then let their teams translate that on the field. And I think that's where you get into the weeds of, and it's a great question, who needs this more? I think if Louisville doesn't get it, they're like, all right, well, we had our shot. Now let's focus on the league. If Cincinnati doesn't get it, sort of the same thing. It's like, well, at least we're out of the tournament. Now we can focus on trying to build results. So I think
fair.
if both lose, they can sort of go the same vein of, well, that's okay. Now we can focus on the task at hand. But if one of these two teams wins, you bet your bottom dollar they are dangling that carrot until the next time these two are able to meet.
Social media is going to be a dangerous place, I think.
I'll log on to
Thursday
twitter.com probably that
Probably.
Wednesday night. Maybe have like a CINVLOU search term set up on TweetDeck or something, you know?
You heard it here first.
We'll see.
What's that burner account again?
What's that burner
Yeah.
account? Which one? I don't want to give you access to all of them, Matt. Trust me.
No KD episodes happening.
Yeah,
over
no.
here for Scott Steele.
I will just say that I won't forget to log out of my burner account when my real opinions come on. Trust me. Won't make that mistake.
10 championship teams in action Tuesday and Wednesday. Cincinnati and Louisville going at it for the very first time this year, and it is going to be one to watch. Speaking of watching, there is a perfect transition into our shots fired debate. Matt Calvo, I'm going to let you take it away.
Well, hi there.
Hi.
Welcome.
So
We
have
missed you last week, by the
Thanks.
way.
Yeah, we did.
Thank
we
you.
did.
That's sweet of you to say. I missed you guys as well.
It wasn't the
Don't believe
judge's
that.
court, I'll say that. You know, it just felt different. Something felt off. I didn't feel the same energy I feel when you're here.
That's what happens with Nell. So
Is that a little buttering up, a little trying
No,
to
heavens no,
sway,
heavens no.
sway the
Your
results
Honor.
a little bit?
Why would I say that?
We have a theme going today for this show, and it's Fathers and Father's Day. So in honor of that, and in light of that, what I wanted to do was go with a father's theme for our question. And the question is TV/movie fathers, best one ever. So, Ms. Steele, you were victorious last week, I believe.
I was.
So you have the floor. You can go first.
Okay, are you ready to do this?
I'm ready.
My selection is Uncle Phil in season 4 of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. He had an episode where Will's father came back and then abruptly left him again. Will's breaking down. Phil is there to console him, and he is a representation of the father that everybody wants to have. And here's the thing, Uncle Phil was a father to Will when nobody else wanted to be. And it's not biologically either. He is wholeheartedly an example for kids and fathers everywhere. And most importantly, he was a father because he chose to be and treated Will like his own. Also won GQ Dad of the Year in 2016.
Boom, 30.
Wow,
Spot
that
on.
was impressive. I would like to clarify, though, are we speaking about father figures or fathers in these movie TV? And Judge, I don't need you to answer. I apologize, but I'm going to let you just weigh that in as I obviously allude
Well, it was
to my
inherently
answer.
part of the argument, so
Fair enough. Fair
has
enough.
to be taken on face value.
Yeah.
My
Yes,
retort.
Scott.
I was just glad. I thought you were going to steal mine.
I was
really-
so worried that you were
Yeah.
going to have Uncle Phil too.
I'm really glad that we had opposite sides there, and I'm set when you are, Judge.
Mr. Stewart, you ready?
Okay.
Go ahead.
I think that without a doubt, it is the To Kill a Mockingbird version of Atticus Finch. I think that not only Cary Grant's portrayal, but what Atticus Finch represents in that movie, a true hero, not only an incredible father who was never a disciplinarian, but was always there to let them know exactly who he was and who they needed to be as a result, obviously standing up for a very controversial opinion at that point in time and really making himself a shining light and a shining example for fathers everywhere.
I'm having awful
Wow.
ninth grade AP English flashbacks at the moment. Yeah.
Oh, I love To Kill a Mockingbird. And Atticus Finch is, at least in the context of that novel specifically, one of the greatest characters of any book of all time or movie.
So I'll start off by saying you're both wrong.
I like that. And this is why I missed him last week, because, wow, we had terrible answers for female
Calvo
characters.
with
wait.
the hot take.
I will say, not that your answers were bad, they're just not correct.
Okay.
Interesting.
Because the answer is Mrs. Doubtfire.
Oh,
Oh
wow.
my
Yeah,
God.
All right. Fair play.
I mean,
That's a good one.
Yeah, I have no
So-
arguments against it.
That's a great one.
that being said, and Mrs. Doubtfire aside, as the best father of all time in movie history,
Really glad we got that out of the way.
I'm going to have to go with Scott on this. I was curious if either of you would go with Atticus Finch, honestly, and the fact that he did, and it's hard to argue. Now, Uncle Phil, especially in that specific episode.
Oh yeah,
It is one of the most
there's some
memorable
tears.
TV episodes of all
Strong,
time.
absolutely strong choice. Difficult to go against, but impossible to go against Atticus Finch.
I have to
the
re-spark
win.
note that whole thing.
My
over again.
sister would have had my head if I named anybody other than Atticus Finch. She is like, she's a novelist. She's getting her master's in library sciences and stuff, and she highly prioritizes Atticus Finch as one of her heroes.
I mean,
right away, I was like, it's got to be this guy.
On a side note, AFI's greatest movie hero of all time,
Really?
Atticus Finch.
Okay.
So
This is the only L I'm okay with taking. I think. Yeah.
This is the only L of your week that you're
Of
okay
my
with
week,
taking.
yeah. The Allegiant 15-hour delay, not cool with that.
Yep.
Not cool with that
Yep.
L. But this one, I guess I can get over. Give me 7 days, and I'll be back to my winning ways.
The nice thing is you'll have another chance to lose next week.
Okay.
shot fired.
Shot
Fired. Love it.
Shot fired.
On that note, that'll do it for episode 4. Scott Stewart, Matt Calvo, Kelsey Steele. We will see you next time.